Hello everyone, my name is Andy, aka Andy Rants, and today I want to talk to you about asexuality. I personally identify as asexual and aromantic, but for a long time I didn't know that. I assumed that just like the face that most of the rest of society puts on, I was straight. And so I tried to convince myself that I liked boys. I would find a boy who I wanted to be friends with, was friends with, enjoyed spending time with, and then I would convince myself that I had a crush on them, or I loved them, or whatever. So then I would ask them out, and then we would date. And I always liked spending time with them. I mean, sometimes we would play chess together, or sword fight, and I loved that. But then I got very, very uncomfortable, and I didn't like it at all when we would, kiss or touch each other, and it really creeped me out and I didn't like it. But I tried to convince myself that I just hadn't found the right person yet, and when I found the right person, everything would click, and kisses wouldn't be so gross, and I would understand why people would ever want this. I probably would have continued trying to convince myself of this if it wasn't for my sister's friend, CJ. We always used to sit in our basement and have these really long philosophical discussions about all sorts of things. And once we were talking about identities. He is a trans male and he's bisexual with a preference for women. And I had mentioned that I didn't feel like I liked anyone. And he said, "Oh, you're probably asexual." Later I learned that I was also aromantic, but we didn't know a whole lot about the terminology at the time. And this blew my mind, that I was allowed to be this. There was a term for what I was. And there wasn't something wrong with me. It was okay to be like this. And so I immediately latched onto that term, and I searched throughout the internet trying to find out more about myself, if there were others like me. And I ran into so much hate and ignorant comments, especially on the internet, but also in regular life. I was told, especially on the internet, that my sexuality was not real, or I just hadn't found the right person yet. Come on, people, I'd been trying to convince myself of that for years. Hadn't worked. When I told people in regular life, they usually had ignorant comments rather than hateful ones, but those were just as bad for me. The one that drove me crazy, and is also my most common response, is, "That's so sad." Why would it be sad that I don't have something that I don't want? Oh, that drives me crazy, and I get that all the freaking time. And it's not like they're trying to hurt me, they're just really ignorant. Another ignorant comment that I've gotten quite a bit is, "Does that mean you reproduce through mitosis?" Or some variation thereof. We really need a different term for the scientific asexual reproduction and the sexual identity of asexual. Those are very different things, and they need to have different terminology. There's just no representation. We're told that we don't exist, and those of us who do exist are mostly hidden away in corners of the internet that are very hard to find without wading through piles of hate. You can't look through the asexual tag on any social media without seeing tons of hate and ignorance. Another problem that I don't personally face, but a lot of asexuals do, is that people aren't willing to accept the difference between their romantic orientation and their sexual orientation. I'm lucky because I'm asexual and aromantic, but it's a huge problem for people who aren't aromantic. People assume that if you want to be in a relationship, then you also eventually want to have sex. Not everybody wants that. And straight aces especially face a lot of problems from within the LGBT community because people don't see them as LGBT plus enough. They see them as straight, and they're not willing to accept that asexuality is part of their identity as well. They feel like it's a choice. That's a problem that most of the identities face, but asexuality has that from within the LGBT plus community. And we face a lot of problems too. Maybe we aren't usually assaulted because we like the wrong people, because we don't like anyone, or at least asexual aromantics don't. Everyone always thinks that eventually you'll change your mind. It's seen as a very, I don't know, juvenile identity, that you just like haven't had your sexual awakening yet, and I think that's ridiculous. I mean, I've been asexual my whole life, and I've known that I was asexual for 3 years now, and nothing has changed. And when I discovered my identity, I was still in high school. Now I'm not in high school anymore. And most people my age have had sex already. And that still grosses me out. I have no desire to ever do that. And I seriously doubt that that's going to change. But most people who aren't asexual tend to assume that it is. That doesn't mean that just because you identify as asexual right now, you can't identify as something else later. A lot of people go through various identities when they're trying to figure out who they are. But don't feel the need to change just because the people around you want you to change. This is about you, not about them. It's like having a food that you don't like, but everybody around you likes, and they always want to make you try it or assume that you already have tried it, and you just don't want any. And they're all trying to convince you that, no, this is the best food. You have to try it. You'll love it. But you don't want any. And they can't accept that. That maybe you have tried it, maybe you haven't, but you don't want any. People just refuse to believe you a lot. I mean, when a straight guy flirts with me, I usually tell them that I'm lesbian, even though I'm not at all, because I know that they'll believe that, or they'll probably believe that. If I told them that I was asexual or aromantic, even if they were going to believe it, it would take a ton of explanation to even get to that point. And it's just easier to tell them that I'm lesbian and that they're just not an option. No one should have to do that. People should be respected for their identities. I personally am very comfortable with this part of my identity. Ever since I realized that there was a term and I was allowed to be like this and there wasn't something wrong with me, I've been a very strong supporter of the asexual community. But even so, the hate and ignorant comments really get to me. And that's a lot worse for people who might be questioning their identity. When you think that you might be asexual, and then everyone around you is telling you that asexuality doesn't exist, that it's a choice that you're making, that you just want to be special or something, then you start to question it. You start to wonder if maybe you are just making it all up. And I promise you, you're not. I want you to know that. You are valid. Your identity is valid. Whatever you may choose to be later, whether you remain an asexual or you don't, that's okay. You are the only person who gets to make decisions about you. A lot of people who make these ignorant or hateful comments don't actually mean to hurt the person that they're commenting about. They just don't know that it's an offensive comment. So if you are not asexual, my challenge to you is to educate yourself. Understand what this identity means, and so when someone tells you that they're asexual, you can respect that and understand what they're telling you and not have to make them wade through explanations and hatred and ignorance. If you are asexual, my challenge to you is to accept who you are. Love yourself, love your identity, and know that you are valid. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment down in the comment section. This is something that I feel very, very strongly about, and it really means a lot to me that you would watch this video. If you want to see more videos like this, then please hit the subscribe button, and I will hopefully be posting another video next week. I've made it 2 weeks now, so that's a good start. Bye!